at the Olympics, and he'll get things rolling on this day with a front 3.5 somersaults in the pike position.
Oh, and beautiful entry. Entry is so important in this sport of diving. It's the last thing that the judges see and has a huge impact on the score.
And that score is 73.5 for Matt Cullen in round 1 of 6. Yes, 6 dives each for each of these competitors in the final. And Cullen gets it started with a solid effort. That brings us along to Laurent Gosselin-Paradis. Competed at the Canada Games in gymnastics in 2015. In 2017, he won silver on tower. He made the switch in sports and was that impressive that quickly. He will begin with the arm stand back 2 somersaults, 1.5 twists.
Oh, beautiful dive. You can really see his gymnastics background in this dive. You need to show balance and control in the handstand. It's very dynamic, pushing off his hands, getting into that twist, and lines it up beautifully.
7 judges turn in their results. Top 2, bottom 2 drop. 76.80 for Laurent Gosselin-Paradis to begin things for him in this final round. Well, there are some young guns in this field, some incredible talent, capable of some big numbers. And we're moving into the territory now of the top 3 heading into the final. We begin with Ryland Wiens out of Saskatoon. And Ryland coming into this with a 4.89.15 from the preliminary round, the highest score of anyone entering this final.
Just an outstanding first dive. Back 2.5, 1.5 twists. Lots of confidence on this dive, which is why he starts with it. And I've been so impressed with Ryland. He did such an exceptional job this year at the World Cup. Has built a lot of confidence in his diving and is a beautiful diver to watch.
And look at that, 86.40. The judges agreeing with Blythe, bringing the total up to 575.55 for Ryland Wiens. A terrific way to get started in the final round. Ethan Pittman is next. Ethan had left wrist surgery back in September. Competed in the World Championship in 2017. National champion a year ago. He'll begin in this final round with the inward 3.5 tuck. Degree of difficulty of 3.2, kind of the middle of his list in terms of difficulty.
Oh, and leaves that dive quite short. He's struggled with this dive. Doesn't love the inward spinning dive where you jump away from the platform but spin back towards it. Didn't get enough strength and power of the takeoff. You really need to extend through your feet and your legs, and just leaves that dive short. The judges are looking for a diver to line up absolutely perpendicular to the water.
And so you see, as a result, paying for that shortness, if you will, 51.50. Tough start to this last phase for Ethan Pittman. He'll have ground to make up as we continue, but 5 dives for him remain in the last round. Brings us to Nathan Zombor-Murray, just 6.8 points behind Ryland Wiens after topping the semifinals. He had a 4.82.35 in the semifinal round. And he has some big numbers when it comes to scores on his resume. Competed at the World Championship for the first time at 14 years of age, already in as synchro partner to Vincent Reando. And we'll see what he can do here to get things rolling in spectacular fashion.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful dive. He's very confident on this dive. Perfect tuck position, finishes above the 5-meter level, really drops into that perfect entry. I cannot find much to criticize on this dive. Neither can his coaches.
Boy, the reaction is amazing. You can see that they know this is something special. The inward 3.5 tuck, degree of difficulty 3.2. What will the judges see? Will it meet their eyes with perhaps perfection? Look at those numbers. Spectacular for Nathan Zombor-Murray. 10 across the board. It's a 96 and a little shake of the head from Nathan himself.
I think even he surprised himself. Even though he knows he's capable, that dive is so good for him.
What a sensational way to get things started. That sends a message to begin the final round. He's got his sights set on Tokyo. Nathan Zombor-Murray gets it going in amazing fashion. Gets himself just ahead of Ryland Weens. Ethan Pittman with some ground to make up. Cullen and Gosselin Paradis rounding out the field as we begin round number 2. And here is the youngster, named to the national team just last year. And Matt Cullen with the back 2.5, 1.5 twisting pike.
And he does a good job with that. Again, only 15 years old, really is trying to gain the experience here to build some confidence. Probably has his eyes set on 2024 Olympics. And that's a good overall dive.
The high end 8.5, the low end 6, 75.20. Yes, a very solid overall performance. Brings us to Ryland Weens. And Ryland with a good first dive, seeing the good first dive from Nathan Zombor-Murray, who wants to reply in kind, front 4.5 tuck.
Oh, and just leaves that one a little bit short. This is such a tough dive. You really need to stand up straight, use all your strength and power to get that rotation going. Squeeze your knees as tight as possible. 10 meters is a long distance. It's really high up, but 4.5 somersaults is a lot of somersault. And he just left that a little bit short. He's capable of doing this dive beautifully. I think he'll be a little bit disappointed with this.
Highest degree of difficulty on his list. And he returns a 66.60. And he'll know that he can be better on this one going forward, but certainly got off to a nice start in this final round. Difficult start to the final round for Ethan Pittman. Only Canadian diver to win 4 medals at a single nationals. Former gymnast, snowboarder. And pushing himself for a bit of a bounce back here to get things continuing for him in this final round. Arm stand back, 2 somersaults. Excuse me. Back 3.5 tuck for Ethan Pittman.
And he does a nice job with that. He's very comfortable with the backward spinning dives. Not a lot of divers are, because it's blind spinning, meaning you don't see the water before you go into it. And so you really need to spot the water at every rotation in order to have that confidence in that entry. You look at your toes and look back at the water, and he does a good job with this.
77.55 for Ethan Pittman. Yes, nice response, showing the mental strength to put a bit of a bobble behind him and move on. And we move on to Nathan Zombor-Murray, who got everybody's attention in that first round with a 96. Now it's a front 4.5 tuck. This is something that he's done special things with before. He had a 111 at the Winter Nationals, the highest single dive score ever for a Canadian diver. What can he do with it this time around?
Oh, wow. Oh, I won't be shocked if he just matched that. That was absolutely perfect. Definitely deserving some high fives. He has a lot of confidence on this. I've spun so quickly grabbing that tuck. And what confidence coming out of the somersault. Zero hesitation. Just so aggressive in that entry, and is absolutely rewarded with a perfect entry. No water coming up. Again, on this dive, very hard to find anything to deduct.
And the response
He's on fire.
Oh, absolutely remarkable. And the response from the coaches reflects that. He had 10s on his opening dive, Can we be in that territory again? Mentioned the 111 a moment ago. And maybe, just maybe, Nathan Zombor-Murray has done it once more. What a zone he is in to begin this final round of the Canadian trials. Top two will advance to represent Canada in the 10 meters. And look at that, there it is. A 111 for Nathan Zombor-Murray. He's up to 689.35. He literally could not be off to a better start. In Ryland Wiens in second, and in the Olympics representing Canada. This is Matt Cullen continuing our coverage. 15-year-old out of Rossmere, Quebec. You heard me right, 15 years of age. 2 years past his first appearance at the Senior Nationals, where he finished 7th. And for Matt here in round 3.
And that's a really nicely executed reverse 2.5 tuck. Lower degree of difficulty, only being 2.5 somersaults. Most of the other men in the competition are doing the harder 3.5 somersaults. But the quality on this is very good. He executes it well.
Nice job by Matt. 71.40 in the 70s. 3 straight dives to begin his appearance here in the finals. Terrific experience for this talented up-and-comer. Laurent Gosselin-Paradis, now 20 years of age, out of Montreal and the Camo Club. Like a number in this sport, a converted gymnast and a very impressive athlete at that. Inward 3.5 tuck for Laurent.
He does a really nice job with that. He's recovering well. He had a really disappointing dive in the second round and beautifully executed. You can see his strength and power as a former gymnast.
Sure can, and a 73.60, a nice rebound for Laurent after a tough one, as you mentioned, in the second round. Had trouble with that reverse 3.5 tuck, the inward 3.5 tuck. Rock solid. Which brings us to Ryland Wiens out of Saskatoon. And Ryland set with the arm stand back 2.5 somersault, 1.5 twists.
Beautifully done. In the handstand dive, it's critical you show control in your handstand position, and that is not easy. Holding a handstand at the end of a 10-meter platform, pushes with his hands. I would like to see him a little stronger as he kips, which means the push from the platform in order to get a little bit further away from the platform. But he lines that up well, and we should see some good scores. Yeah, like an 83.20 when you do the math. A terrific effort from Ryland Wiens, who, you never know it, has overcome some back issues from early in his teenage years. He looks incredibly fit and performing very well here in these finals. Brings us to Ethan Pittman. Ethan attended the World Championship in 2017. Silver medal in a synchro competition with Laurent Gosselin-Paradis last year on the international stage. And taking his shot at the Olympics here at the Toronto Pan Am Sports Centre. And he does a good job with that. A tougher dive, it's two and a half twists. So an extra twist that Ryland has requires so much strength and power. Leaves the dive just a little bit short, but overall really solid for such a high degree of difficulty. You see a lot of the divers wearing those wrist guards. Just shows you the wear and tear that landing head first off of the 10-meter platform can create.
75.60 for Ethan Pittman. You see the chamois there as well. So important to be dry to be able to execute from the tower. And next up, Nathan Zombor-Murray. Zombor-Murray, spectacular to get things going here in the final round with a couple of perfect scores. And you see a resume dotted with impressive notes as well, including that appearance at the Pan Am Games. Outstanding talent, both individually and in the synchro competition. And here's the back 3.5 tuck, 3.3 degree of difficulty from Nathan Zombor-Murray.
Oh, and he's just looking so great all around. Really strong, explosive jump off the platform, beautiful tuck position, and he really controls that entry well. In order to stop the rotation and line up the entry, you need to kick, look at your toes, and then reach back. And he does a good job. I don't think we're going to see 10s on this dive, but we'll see some good scores.
He's spoiled us. We're looking for 10s every time the man comes up 3 stories high. 87.45, and you can hear the reaction in the people in attendance, coaches and support staff, the fellow competitors. They're really enjoying what they're seeing. Nathan Zombor-Murray leads the way, and Ryland Wiens in that second spot. Pittman, Cullen, Gosselin, Paradis trying to make up some ground. Remember, 2 positions available on the Canadian team. 3 rounds down and 3 to go. And here is Laurent Gosselin Paradis, set to work in round 4. Front 3.5 somersault in the pike position.
And he does a good job with that. Again, lower degree of difficulty. A lot of the top men are doing the more challenging front 4.5 tack. This is 1 less somersault, but controls it well. When you do lower degree of difficulty, it's crucial that you need to have high execution scores to not lose ground on the divers that are doing higher degree of difficulty dives.
And a good effort there from Laurent. 72 even, brings his number to 639.30, combining his 4 efforts in this final round with the score he brought in from one of 4 eligible competitions. And for Laurent, it was a 389.35 from the preliminary round. Next, we go to Ryland Wiens out of the Saskatoon Diving Club. And proud of it in a sport that's been dominated by Eastern representatives. Happy to rep the home province of Saskatchewan. And Ryland Wiens here with the back 3.5 tuck.
Beautiful. He's very comfortable in the backward and reverse spinning dives. Knows exactly where he is. He gets a big strong jump off of the platform, and he controls that well. Maybe just slightly over rotated at the bottom, and that's what brings up that extra little splash. What the judges are looking for is the perfect entry where you land absolutely vertical with little splash coming up.
Very solid from Ryland, 79.20, up over 800 points in the event so far. Ethan Pittman next, 3 stories high. And it's been estimated that when the athletes hit the water from 10 meters, they can be around 50 kilometers an hour. Imagine that. On top of doing what they do, it's just an amazing feat of athleticism.
Yes, and hence the wrist guards when you're hitting the water that hard.
Right. Reverse 3.5 tuck.
And he does a good job with that. I actually think he missed his hands when he went in the water. And what I mean by that is when you're going in the water, you want your hands together, and you can see they come apart. And so not only does that hurt the head a little bit when you don't have your hands protecting you when you hit the water, but it's really impossible to achieve a rip entry when your hands are not grabbed in together.
So the hands are creating an opening, and you fall into it, so to speak. Is that correct?
You sure do. And again, it kind of punishes your head when you hit the water that hard.
So Ethan would know well before the judges would tell him just exactly what had happened there. Brings us to Nathan Zombor-Murray, Montrealer, 18 years of age, out of the Pointe Claire Club. He's been with the national team, hard to believe, since 2014. And remember, he was born in 2003. Nathan Zombor-Murray. Arm stand back 2 somersaults. And it has a twist and a half as well.
And that's a good dive. He just brought up a little bit of extra water as he went in. Good control there, nice position in the air, beautiful technique. Just a little bit wobbly as he goes in the water. You want to be as tight as possible all throughout your hands, all the way to your toes. A little bit loose, and that's what brings up some extra water.
73.60 for Nathan Zombor-Murray, who continues to check off the dives and work his way towards a spot in the Tokyo Olympics. More than checking off those first 2 dives, they were perfection. And here are the numbers after 4 rounds. They show the good work of Nathan Zombor-Murray on our coverage of the Canadian diving trials continues. The 10-meter event for men, and look at that, the Tokyo Aquatic Center, the venue for diving. We will have the coverage for you beginning on July the 25th, and it should be a whole lot of fun. We're trying to finalize who will be representing Canada in the 10-meter with this last segment of the show. And Blythe, looking forward to seeing these young men go to work. They have been terrific so far in this competition. Sixth and final round. Rylan Wiens poised to make his way to Tokyo and getting set to wrap it all up in style here. His reverse 3.5 tuck should take care of business.
Oh, goodness. Reverse 3.5 tuck. Just absolutely gorgeous dive. So much confidence on this. And I think this extra year has really benefited both Rylan and Nathan, given them extra time to refine these more challenging dives. And I think they're both setting themselves up really well for the upcoming Olympics. So much confidence, and wow, look at those scores.
Yeah, that'll set you up. 96.90. Look at the reaction of his coach, Mary Carroll, an Olympian herself. 92 in Barcelona. And that is a sensational performance to close things out. Rylan Wiens, 96.90 on that reverse 3.5 tuck. He knows it, she knows it. He is on his way to something special and a real landmark time in his career. A first Olympic Games on the way. And celebration, the support from the diving community, you can see it. And there is a smile worthy of a trip to Tokyo. Ethan Pittman next. Ethan Pittman next. And remember, just 16.85 points separated the top 3 coming into this final round. Ethan Pittman was right in the middle of it. Final may not be what he had in mind, but he certainly gave himself an opportunity.
Oh, and a nice way to finish the competition for Ethan. Back 2.5 with 1.5 twists. I think he's been diving really strong. I think he's going to be a little bit disappointed not to make the Olympic team, but has a very bright future. Really talented diver, and beautiful way to finish the competition.
Pretty solid final. Yeah, good score there, and 80 even. A disappointing first dive of the final for Ethan Pittman. Better from there, and he finishes. You can see there's some disappointment, but he is a game competitor with a lot of talent. And he fought hard for his spot at the Toronto Pan Am Sports Center. Brings us to this man, Nathan Zombor-Murray. Round 6 of 6 to close it out. What a memorable occasion it has been for him. Back 2.5, 1.5 twists, pike position. Degree of difficulty 3.2, the joint easiest on his list.
What a way to finish. He's been so sharp from start to finish and really demonstrating today. He's a medal contender in both the individual and the synchro events. Just so dynamic and consistent all around. So impressed with this young diver. Only 8. So impressed with this young